We use our voice to express our feelings.
As long as I feel good, as long as it makes me feel good, I'm already happy with it and I believe it.
We are raised in a society that functions off of ego.
I can now feel and control my whole voice and presence better.
I mean, loving yourself is the first step towards even knowing what love is.
Have you ever considered the profound impact that your voice can have on your life? When I started doing podcast appearances and speaking, I struggled with my voice. My throat was always strained, and after speaking, I was left exhausted. And every time I heard my voice, I wasn't happy with it either. Then, for my birthday, Miriam got me a gift for this transformational voice therapy. So, in many spiritual traditions, the voice is seen as a powerful tool for healing, transformation, and self-discovery. For example, in the Sufi tradition, the voice is used in singing and chanting to achieve a state of ecstatic union with the divine. But it's not just about spirituality. Your voice can also help you unleash your own full potential in all areas of your life, from personal relationships to professional success. So today we have a very special guest, Marin Azoff, who has been helping people find their voice for over a decade. She's a masterful vocal coach and the creator of Vocal Transformation, which is a program that has changed the lives of countless individuals worldwide, including mine, but my voice is still a work in progress. Anyway, Marin helps people find their voice, heal themselves, and unlock their full potential. So join us as we explore the profound wisdom of our guest and learn about the transformative effects of unlocking your voice.
Have you warmed your voice up before this?
No.
We really should, shouldn't we?
Let's do it. Let's do a voice warm exercise because the podcast's already rolling. So I think it's a good intro. Yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah, so it starts with the lips, right? So I'm going to back away from the microphone a little bit, but let's just get the lips moving. So start by just...
I'm going to use this as the first intro.
Exactly. Here she is.
That's the first
Here
thing
she comes. Here's Marin, right? Okay, so... Right. So let's loosen the jaw completely, right? And hit blub, B-U-L-B. So it's blub, 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 blub. The whole point is to get this mouth, like the jaw, really open, right? So now lips. We've done this together. Lips, 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 teeth, 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 teeth. Tongue, 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 mouth, mouth, mouth. Okay, now big chews. Whine, 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 whine. Now W, right? So we're going to purse the front of the mouth and go. So it's almost like an owl's hoot, right? But it's a big W in the very front. So all the sound comes to the very pursed lip. And then the cheeks are going to fill with air as you do that because it's not a big opening. So it's... Can you feel when you do that, the muscles at the bottom activate?
Yeah.
It really activates all the stuff that we've gone through with the bottom muscles. And so it really connects the voice into that mechanism. And then we're going to open it to an ah. So we're going to go wah, 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 wah. And then take that to go wow.
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 Now do one where you can feel as much space and sound in all your face as you can. So go wow. Like try to get as much sound to move through the whole front of your face as you can. Just wake it up, right? Now, one last thing. We're almost there. One last thing. We're gonna hum. We're gonna do that lip trill thing we did. We're gonna go and make some sound, and then we're gonna try to move it through the whole face. So try to get it down to the jowls, and then up to the cheeks, and then up to the top, and then back through. So it's like. You feel how buzzy your lips are right now? Buzzing? Yeah, you feel that? So we want the whole face to be involved, right? So when we're talking, it's all really in the face. And then the bottom of the body, when we did that, those muscles that get activated, that's where the voice stems from, right? But the face is what makes the words. So we want to make sure the whole sound is very vibrant and buzzy in the front of the face.
Yeah, it does feel fuzzy and it's all warm.
It like
And
wakes you up, right?
yeah, definitely. And I also feel that right now, when I do start speaking, I'm way more conscious of the fact that I'm using the front of my face and the lips.
Yep. Very
That's
good. And
awesome.
that the microphone then picks it up clearer, and your whole energy is moving forward, right? Instead of moving backwards, everything's moving forward. And so, yeah. There. We're
Because when
warm.
I've thank you.
You're
Because now
welcome.
when I've been doing all these short videos and recording videos, but some of the short form videos, I feel that I'm rushing too much and I'm not actually articulating a lot of the things that I'm saying.
Hmm.
And I think it's the lack of warm up.
Right. Definitely. Warming up is so important.
Yeah. Because it changed my whole demeanor and camera presence and everything.
This is a daily practice. It's not just for when you come on, because if you practice it daily, then the warm up's less necessary because it's just the way that you talk all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And as you can probably tell by the intro, today's podcast guest is a very special friend of mine. I've been working with Marin for a year now, and I would like to think that over the year we've become good friends now because these sessions are always really fun. I'm always having a lot of fun and learning a lot. So I'm very, very, very glad to have you on. This episode is all about the power of your voice and why it's, let's say, one of the or the most powerful instrument that you have. And Marin has been helping me train this instrument of mine for a year now. And I personally think, I like to think that I've made a lot of progress. And it's all thanks to Marin that I have this silky smooth podcast voice now that I can show off.
Yes.
So welcome on, Marin. Very, very
Thank you
glad to have
so
you here.
much. It's such an honor to be here. I'm loving that we're going to have this conversation right now.
Same. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time already. Marin has helped me fix up my voice and my speaking skills, and through this, help me be way more comfortable on camera and to do my work. And I started this journey, this voice journey, because my girlfriend Miriam gifted Marin's course to me. This 1 year transformational voice therapy program, and it's been very transformational and very therapeutical both. So the title delivers on its promise. And after this work, I can now definitely feel that I'm speaking from the correct place. I'm not straining my voice anymore. And this is not easy. It takes a lot of practice, but I'm very, very glad that I've been doing this practice, because it's not only my work that this helps, but every other aspect of my life, I guess. It's cool because I guess TikTok and the social media algorithms know what I'm into now. And the other day I saw this TikTok of a guy talking about the mentioning the chakra system, which we're gonna get into. That a lot of people's closed, like throat chakra is closed off, and their voice gets really like up here, and they're constantly like getting nasal and up here, and they're not demanding, and everything that they're saying, the voice is kind of going up, and instead of like going down and finishing the sentences and asserting yourself, you're always kind of second guessing yourself because you're finishing sentences like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very, very great summary, or like a reminder of what we've been doing as well. And since I guess we're gonna be jumping around this conversation a lot. Sorry, it's a long-winded one. I'm gonna give you a chance to speak in a second now.
No,
But
please.
let's jump back and forth, because since I already teased people with the chakra question, let's just like jump right into that. I want to hear about chakras and how chakras work. And maybe if you can try to explain it also so very, very left brain people would understand it, how the like pragmatics of it.
Oh, this is not a problem.
I would love to hear that. Let's
Yeah.
tackle that one.
I'm a very right brain person, but I have a definite space in my life for the left brain, right? So there's that's how actually I approach the chakras with my voice work. People who aren't on a spiritual path or maybe aren't into yoga or don't, or they say, what's a chakra? And it's become this kind of term that is very esoteric, right? Like, oh, our chakras, our wheels of energy. It is way more simple and way more mechanical than that, actually, right? Physiologically, chakras actually exist in the body. So the 7 main chakras, there are many chakras, which are energy centers, right? But the human being in the teachings of yoga have 7 main energy centers, which run from the crown down to the root of the body. They run along the spinal column, and they are a major contributing force in our central nervous system. So at each of these chakra points, there is a group of nerve ganglion, like a physical group of nerve endings that are there in a cluster. And energy is created off of that nervous response, right? So that those nerve endings are creating an electromagnetic field. It's how the entirety of our world functions, right? Electromagnetically. We are electromagnetic. Our whole body functions off of electricity moving from the brain down through all the nerves all the way through the body, right? So that electricity is also needing to be held by the water, right? Fire and water. The water of our cells is remembering all of those electrical firings, right? And that's how
I'm
we
gonna
get, yes.
sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. I'm gonna throw one thought in here.
Yeah.
Is a lot of people, I don't know a lot of people, but I guess for some people, maybe some like somebody thinks, oh, what do you mean we're electrical? We're like chemical beings and we have molecules and everything. What's electrical about us? But you have to remember that our nerves function electrically. Like, let's use an example of a defibrillator. If we were not electrical beings as well as chemical beings, defibrillators wouldn't work. MRIs would not work. They pick up on the electrical signals of the body. I just wanted to add that comment in there
Yeah,
quickly.
no, great. Thank you. So our electricity is how we're alive, right? The sun and the water and the earth make all of this happen, all the elements, right? All the chemistry involved in the earth. But so that electricity that's moving, those synapses that are firing from the brain and moving through our body, they move down the central nervous system. And at each of these chakra points, there's a group of nerves that are clustered together. And when a signal moves into that chakra, it then gets sent to the corresponding organs and tissues that correlate with that chakra, right? So there's a chakra at the root, at the sacral, at the solar plexus, at the heart, at the throat, at the third eye, and at the crown. I would say the chakra at the crown is not in our body at all. It's actually hovering somewhere above our body. And so once we get to those teachings up higher up, it is very esoteric. And we're talking about our ability to actually bring in the sun's energy. Like, that's the electricity, that's the firepower that's moving in through our crown. And that's the stream of pure consciousness, right? That sun is how life occurs on this planet. And that is our conversation between that sun and all the way to the center of this earth is the conversation that a human being is conducting electrically, right? So each of these chakras gets to hold that each chakra has a specific level of evolution, I would say, that humanity is here to undergo. And the teachings of chakras are that each of these areas have a certain density or electromagnetic field, and how we process mentally, emotionally, and physically all has to do with this. Right? So a chakra is basically a nerve, a group of nerve endings that we can access. And then we actually have some level of control over our health.
So I've seen a lot of studies and come out over the recent years as well, where research is being done on these chakras and the chakra system, which is all like very fascinating. How all of this works and that they're actually detecting this chakra system, and it's like Western science is being done around this. But how Yeah. Well, I mean, it is I'm not saying Western science is the end all be all and everything, and it's like a very science scientism, or like you need everything on paper, you need everything to be quantifiable. Because personally, I very much respect the esoteric and the spiritual side, and I don't need everything to be quantifiable. As long as I feel good, as long as it makes me feel good, I'm already happy with it and I believe it. But for a lot of people, and for the general field, let's say, to evolve and more people to start accepting this, it really helps that we have this quantitative science being done around this, and it's fascinating.
You know, I'm super excited about it. We're finally catching up to what we have relegated to like spiritual, esoteric teachings. We're actually finally starting to see that, no, this is actually how it works. And that just excites me to no end, because I think the human race is actually ready to step into our power and what it is we are capable of doing here. That makes me actually so excited. So I'm all about science doing all this research. Tell us that what the Buddha told us in 560 BC, we get now. We get it. This is good. Let's go.
Yeah, and that gets me fired as well. It's because I would say I'm not a very sensitive person to a lot of esoteric practices, or even to nootropics or certain, like, let's say, supplements. And it takes me a while to start feeling these things. But through our work, like what we've done together, I've learned to listen and feel into my body a bit more, as well as the chakra things. Okay, I don't think I've gone through any chakra openings just yet, as we talked about it, but I can certainly feel how my voice moves, where I'm resonating from. And even if you don't, even if maybe for some people it's still hard to accept, maybe it's a bit too woo for them, but by just chanting these chakras, and it's the practice we've been doing, we're gonna get into that in a second. By just chanting on these chakras, I can now feel and control my whole voice and presence better. And it's very enjoyable to have this experience in power, and not power in the sense of like good power, but this presence, this ability. That's what I wanted to say, to do this.
Yeah, and it's mostly grounded energy, right? When we're not in the body, we're in our heads. We're up here somewhere. And I mean, my teaching stem from a learning I had many years ago, where the Rig Veda, which is the most ancient yogic text that we have on this planet, is basically saying within it that the human voice is unmanifest form. That when you said before that someone's throat chakra is closed and we're all in the head, we have a ton of imagination and creativity that comes from that faculty. But to get it to the world to become seemingly real, like to get it into the physical world, it has to be embodied. Our body is holding the physical kundalini, like the physical Shakti energy of creation. The physical creation lives inside the body. So once the voice gets in, you're actually grounded into the technology that can create a difference in the physical, real, experienced world instead of just in some conceptual place.
But let's get into that. I want to know what Kundalini means. I want to know what Shakti means. But first, uh, what do chakras have to do with my voice? How are these things even related?
So I got a teaching many years ago on this too, that the language of Sanskrit, which is one of the most ancient languages on the planet, and it's a vibrational language. It's not the only ancient vibrational language, but it is the one that's the most available to us because yoga has become so popular. Thank you for that, yoga. Thank you. um, so the ancient language of Sanskrit, which dates back, I mean, we dated back about what 7,000, 8,000 years. It's the oldest in our recorded history. Is a vibrational language that never became conversational. We're just going to say that it's a language that's used for its vibrational quality. It's used for the effect that it produces when we use it. So my teacher told me many years ago that the actual Sanskrit language was the discovery of the chakra. That upon using these bija mantras, which is what my program goes through, you actually get a chance to awaken that electromagnetic cluster, right? That field. And that upon the chanting of these sounds, which were channeled through meditation, that they actually found these chakras to even begin with, that it was vocally activated, right? That we had it, of course, we had them. It's part of our buildup, our makeup, but that actually using our voice and going in there wakes it up and allows us to understand the consciousness that's living in there. So, what, 7,000, 8,000, maybe 10,000 years ago, whenever this voice, this Sanskrit language dates to, they were chanting, they were in meditation, deep meditative state. They ultimately started channeling these sounds. The first sound was Om, the one that everyone uses, right? Om is in all the yoga classes. Everyone chants Om. What is Om? Om is the primordial sound. It is basically saying, I am that I am. And how it's been taught to me is that it's the sound of the silence that connects everything, right? So it's like the frequency of the space between the thoughts. It's the frequency of the space that connects all things together in the universal law of Dharma, right? So with that, Om comes first, and they open up the third eye. It's the Bija mantra for the third eye. So they open up the consciousness of the third eye. And then from there, other sounds are developing. And each of these sounds that come in are basically based off of the sound of Om, but they have a different consonant in the front. And those consonants are a way that our muscle system works to lock the sound into that chakra area, right? And that's how we find that these centers are there. And when they're awoken, we have access to all of that area of the body. So all the organs that are part of that system, all the tissues that are there, all the stored memory, all the activity, all the consciousness inside the body begins to awake. Our bodies are the most intelligent part of us while we're here on earth. That's what I'm going to say. Because obviously we have a cosmic consciousness that is so hyper intelligent that enters the body, right? But while we're on the earth, we were given an invitation that we accepted to take the body of Gaia as a human, right? This is an incredible, amazing opportunity. We were given a piece of her consciousness, but we can never forget as a human race that this is hers. Like, this body is holding the intelligence of the planet itself. And then our soul that comes in with its own set of intelligences is coming in to dance with it and be with it and learn from it and merge with it and understand it in some way. Instead of trying to take it over and be better than it somehow, or whatever we might be doing with our bodies now by creating all this artificial stuff, right? We ultimately are looking at listening, like you just said with your voice. I can hear my voice in my body. I can hear now what's going on in that body. Great. That is the beginning of a conversation with the planet itself. And that is how we get to health. Your company, Homesome, right? The voice is, I love that this conversation around the voice and bringing, and you said it's not only helping my work, it's helping my life. Of course, it should help your work. It's your home. Your body is your home, first and foremost. And then when you have a healthy body, you live in a healthy home that you'll create. Like, anything outside of your own physical form is only going to be created by what's happening inside the physical form. So to get your voice in, to get your soul embodied, to start to hear the intelligence of when the body feels good and when it doesn't feel good, and to pay attention to that, to pay attention to when you feel clear and when you feel foggy and blurry, when you feel energized and when you feel depleted. Your body is riddled with intelligence, and we're not listening to it because we're up in the head so much. But when you get your voice inside your body, that conversation starts to begin again. And that's how you create a home outside of your body that's healthy.
It's something that Miriam and I both have been talking about as well. It's come up a few times. Is when you learn to listen to your body more. Maybe you've experienced this. Like, you became more health conscious, and for that reason, I don't know, do you ever feel a bit more sensitive to the environment around you? Because when I didn't pay attention at all, I could do whatever and I wouldn't notice the difference. So now I don't know if I'm just more sensitive or what's going on, because every little thing I can feel. Is it that I'm just picking up on these things, or has my body just become weaker and like more, uh, let's say, more things affect me more easily? So that's a question there.
It's a really good question. I go to Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti has a great quote that says, it's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society."
Ah.
And
That
so
is a good one.
I
I'm gonna
hear
remember
you
that and steal that.
in that. In that, I always say waking up is hard to do. This has been my quote for, like, I've been on a spiritual healing path for, I don't know, 25 years of my life so far. And yes, you start to choose healthier environments. You start to choose to be in a non-toxic environment because you're so sensitive to toxicity, right? But I don't know that we should have bodies that can just like handle all the carcinogen and lose our contact with the way the earth wants to be in health, right? The earth works for balance. She wants an ecosystem that's balanced. She wants our bodies to be balanced. She wants everything to be in good, aligned, connected health. So I don't know that it's some measure of like we should be okay with just breathing in crappy air because I'm not sensitive. I think that no, we should be so sensitive that we clean our air.
My own theory is that I've always felt at a certain threshold, and when I start feeling better, I want to be here because I can feel when I'm falling back here. But here, I didn't know I could go like up anymore because I thought it was
Exactly.
normal. So
You
I
have a new
explained it like that to
baseline.
myself. Exactly, yeah. So, but I really liked how you explained to me on our first call your approach to your teaching and how we're born with our voice, with our authentic voice, but throughout our lives, we collect these little, let's call them insults, insults to our body and our being, that we start locking away our voice. So I might have butchered it, but maybe you can take it over and like word it better.
No, thank you for remembering. You remember back that far. That's incredible. so, um,
It's a
yes,
memorable thing. It's worth remembering. I mean,
the very first thing you do when you come into the world is you scream, you cry, right? The very first thing a baby does. This is our deepest intelligence. The soul enters the body with the breath. The very first thing we have to do as a human to prove that we deserve the body and that we're actually in this thing is we have to breathe. So we take in that breath. I love this. This I didn't say to you because it's something that was brought to my attention like 6 months ago or so. In science, we call the inhalation inspiration. And so I always say respiration, respiriting. That's the word. I've always said that, like the word respiration, respiriting the body, breathing into the body. But I never knew, which is crazy all these years. Inspiration is what we call breathing in. The inhalation in science is inspiration. So inspiriting, which does what? It makes your body want to live. It makes your life, your spirit's like, I'm in the body. Like, what do we have this thing? What are we going to do with it today? Like it's inspiration. When you think about that word inspiration, you feel alive. Inspiration makes you feel alive and motivated to do something, to active, to create, right? That's what inspiration does. So that's the very first thing we have to do. We have to inspire. We have to bring spirit into the body. And then right after that, we scream. We let out a big wail and we just basically say, I'm here, world. Listen to me roar. Right. And then as we grow up, the louder we are or the more vocal we are sometimes, most often, I would say, in my experience, I've been teaching this for over a decade. Those temper tantrums when you're 2 years old and those times where you're learning how to use your voice, but you don't have an editor yet, or you don't know that it's not okay, that people don't want to hear you all the time or whatever it is, you get in trouble for that. You get punished for being too much, too loud. If you say something that sounds funny or if you say something that is not right, you could be laughed at, you could be made fun of. And so all these times when you verbalize, like when you express something that's totally authentic, that's real in the moment to you, that is your consciousness moving through your body and it just wants to say this thing or sing this thing or do this thing, and then someone says no and decides they're going to stop you for their own reasons, right? Maybe it's time to go to bed, or maybe it's you've been doing this all day, or maybe it's, you're fighting or something, whatever it might be, that when you get punished or when you get reprimanded for something that is totally natural to you as a child, we begin to edit. We begin to hold back. We begin to question if what we have to say matters or if it should be said. And it starts to really mess with how our voice works. So our personality, which is how we're using our voice, because our voice is based on our egos right now, right? Not all of ours. There are people in this world who've done incredible work, but the vast majority of humanity, and this is to no fault of our own. So this is not an accusation. I'm included in it. We are raised in a society that functions off of ego. What is ego? Ego is a separate sense of identity. That's all it is. We don't have to call it good or bad. We're just going to say the definition of ego is an illusory, separate sense of self. So our ego makes us believe that we are different or separate. I don't even want to say different. We are separate from everything else. It's how we form our own identity. So we have a lot of conversation in the world around ego, whether it's good or bad and all that. And the spirituality wants to kill the ego. But really, we just want to see what it is. And that forms when we're very, very young. It forms at the second chakra, which is 6 months to 3 years old. And it solidifies from 3 to 7. So you might have heard psychologists talk about 0 to 7 years old being like the most important years of our life. And what that really is pointing to is the fact that we have an already idealized version of ourselves that's based on the impressions that the outside world gave to us at that time. We are basing who we are in the world, which is our personality, our strategy, right? Our ego is strategizing all the time. Our ego wants us to be the most loved, the most smart, the most beautiful, the most intelligent, whatever it might be. We want to be the best, right? It's built on comparison. And then we have a world that thrives on competition. So comparison and competition drive all of us. I want to be the one who's more successful. I want to be the one who knows the most. I want to be the one who's the most spiritual person in the world. I want to be the one that has the hottest wife or the hottest husband. I want the fastest car. Like we
The
are all
best
driven.
podcast voice.
I want the statue for the best podcast voice. But right, we do that with the awards, and that's a whole other thing. Built on reward and punishment, right? Our entire sense of who we are is built on when we were awarded for something or applauded for something or honored for something, or when we are punished or rejected, right? And so our entire ego is built on like, get the reward and avoid the rejection at all costs. And so depending on what our individual life experiences have been, and we all have different ones, but I hate to tell you this, and like everyone who's listening, they're all kind of the same too. Right? We might have differing severities and differing degrees of what we've had to experience, but we all have to experience all of the fundamental emotions. We all experience gain. We all experience loss. We all experience praise. We all experience blame. We all experience success. We all experience failure. Like we all have to experience all of these things so that we can feel our emotions. It's part of our consciousness and it's part of what we came here for. Right? So depending on what we experience when we're really young, that becomes an impression left upon us, a projection of the outside world, right? That gets put onto us and we agree. That's how they see me. That's who I am, right? I am not the smartest kid in the class. They might take me out of my class where all my friends are and put me in another class because I can't read as well as my other friends can. The kids play with me in the playground or they don't. I'm the one that nobody likes. There's crazy science around it too, where if you run your first race in school and you lose it, you have an 80% chance of losing the next race you run. 80%, right? Like how impressionable we are as children is that those first time experiences that come into our world, whatever that experience is, we take as that's what it is. And so I become the loser. I don't win the race. Right? And so there's all of that comes into your voice, right? If you raise your hand to answer a question the first day of school or the first time you raise your hand and you get it right, you're going to be the one who always raises their hand. But if you get it wrong, you have an 80% chance of not raising your hand again. Or when you do, getting it wrong again, just because that's history repeating itself. And look at the world we're in. Can we not see that as the truth? History continuously repeating itself.
And we create patterns for ourselves and we repeat our own patterns and we just live in them.
And that becomes who we are. And even if we're not happy in that, it's at least recognizable to us. Mm-hmm. Our ego is so cunning that even if it keeps us in a state of our own misery, it wants to be right all the time. So if you never get the guy, right? Let's just say I never get the guy, right? That'll be the case. You'll do whatever you have to do in cunning little conniving ways to push the guy away because you actually believe that you'll never get the guy.
And often we don't realize that we're doing these things. That's why self-sabotage is so widespread.
Exactly.
And I guess in a very like a pragmatic example as well, that's most often why people born to rich parents also tend to be richer, because there is no artificial walls between where you are and how you can be. You see it growing up. It's your normal that you can make copious amounts of money, that a certain living standard is okay. And the vice versa is true as well. If you're born into a family that's maybe not so well off financially, or maybe not the best business people and are just like hardworking blue collar 9 to 5 people, then it's very, from my own experience as well, it's very tough to start breaking down these walls if you want to build something, if you want to go out there and make a business and start making new, no, like breaking the limits that you have, and seeing how far you can take yourself and what you can actually do.
Exactly. So this goes all the way back to what we were just talking about a few minutes ago with your voice being in your body, and about the electromagnetic fields and the chakra system and the water in the cells that I mentioned. The water stores memory. Water stores memory. That's part of its incredible property, right? A drop of water from the top of a mountain down at the bottom has within it all of everything it's touched. It stores the memory of everything that comes in contact with it. So experience becomes very important here, right? If you've experienced abundance, you know in your physical reality that this is real.
Mhm.
If you haven't, you don't have any physical recollection inside your body of how to attain it. You might have a thought process of something. It's an imaginary thing. It's out there. It's not in the cellular memory. Once it's in the cellular memory, it's easy to replicate it. We can repeat that history again and again and again. But if it's not, it's much harder to get it in there. Not impossible at all, right? Not impossible, but much more difficult. And it takes a certain amount of um, mind, body, spirit connection, the three brains, as I call it. There are three human brains: the gut, the heart, and the head. And they literally move in that order of operations. Our intelligence moves gut, heart, head. So when we don't have something in our gut, which is our instincts, right? Our deep knowing inside the physical flesh, and that gets handed down through the generations, right? 3 generations deep through the umbilical cord. So they call this the umbilical brain. We have doctors all over the world agreeing now that the microbiome is the most important thing, right? Every store has tons of these microbiotics, right? Um, that's because that intelligence that functions down there is primary. And when that's not functioning well, neither does the other two brains. And that's the one that can control the other two. So when your gut is out of whack, your emotions are out of whack, and your brain is foggy. If your gut is doing well, you have clarity to function the other two, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is that if it's only in the head, if you actually look at the physical body, the head's the smallest of the components, right? It's like it's head. In a healthy person, it's gut, and then a heart, right, is the largest center. And why is that? Because the heart is the culmination of the gut and the head. These two intelligences move towards the center of human gravity, which is our heart center. Why do you think humans are so obsessed with love? We are love obsessed, right? If we don't have love in our life, we feel like we're not okay. If we don't love ourselves, forget about it. I mean, loving yourself is the first step towards even knowing what love is, right? But then it's on every bumper sticker, every movie, every song. Like, we are obsessed with the concept of love, but it is still a concept to a human. It has not fully, some people have. I'm definitely generalizing here. Very few humans have ever experienced love in its totality, like what love actually is. And that experience comes when your intelligence is perfectly aligned, which is why we work on aligning the chakra system, because each of these three brains, which is our entire consciousness working together, has to be working congruently. And each of these brains has a voice. Your head thinks something, your emotions think something, and your body thinks something, your instincts think something. They all have a voice within them that is programmed in at a cellular level. That doesn't have to remain that way. It can be changed, which is why the chanting practice comes in. We chant because the vibration of our own voice can move the memory held within the cells, the water. Sound moves through water. Sound changes the molecular structure of water, right? So, what memory is holding in there, I'm poor, right? We can actually begin with a simple sound. It is so basic. We can begin with a simple sound and calming the mind and forgetting that thought. Like, stop thinking you're never going to be abundant. Just stop thinking it. It's easier said than done. I know. But we can. We are that powerful. Stop thinking it and don't think the other way for now. We'll get there. For now, just do the chanting. Just change the memory of the cell that says, I lack, we lack, right? Get that cell to be stabilized in all the potential, what's possible for it. And then put in another thought process. Wait, abundance is everywhere, right? And watch how it'll start to come at you, all that abundance. But the teachings here of the chakra system and the vocal work that I do, the vocal transformation work, is learning how to use the vibrational frequency of your own voice to reset your central nervous system. The very first attachment of the vagus nerve, which is in charge of our fight or flight or parasympathetic nervous system, right? We're either stressed or we're calm, is at the vocal cords. And that is because the voice is the primary tool to stabilize those signalings that are coming down, like worry, stress, anxiety, all that stuff that we suffer. The voice, the vibration of the vocal cords coming together will soothe that electrical current that wants to tighten everything up, right? So this work has been done for centuries, from the beginning of time. And I have to say that, yes, we have it very hard right now. I think we have it harder emotionally now. And if we rewind back to when this stuff came from, they had it much harder on an existential level. We're literally living in a time where we have so much available to us, and we live in a lot more comfort than humans have ever lived in.
More comfort than a king in medieval times or royalty.
Exactly.
I have another quick left brain insert in here as well. Is chanting, or for example humming, has also been shown in, again, Western biomedicine studies, Western science studies, to actually influence the vagus nerve and calm your vagus nerve. And it's the link has been shown and proven there. And I remember hearing about it. I haven't validated this, so don't attack me too much or get angry at me if I'm wrong. But I remember hearing about it. I don't mean you. I mean someone in the audience, maybe hypothetical someone.
I think we should have them experience it because they can experience it right now if they're willing to do a little exercise with us.
Let's do it. I'm going to quickly finish the thought.
Yes.
But it has been also shown to the vibrations from the humming, for example, have been shown to kill off viruses and other infections in your upper airways, to clear them. And I remember hearing about a study like that. I haven't checked it out, but I remember hearing about the study.
Yeah, no, I absolutely 100% believe that to be true. I've witnessed I've witnessed people heal like cardiac issues with the chanting work. I've witnessed people heal major issues with like Crohn's, even like physical illnesses, right? It takes time and dedication. It's not a magic pill by any stretch. And it's a matter of aligning the three brains and using your vibration. And it's a daily practice. Like the practice of these chants is at the minimum 40 days.
And even if, worst case scenario, the only real, in quotation marks, the only real mechanism, if it is the one mechanism that's just calming you, de-stressing you, I think only that is already worth it.
100%.
But there is much more. There is definitely much more from my own experience already. But let's do the exercise. Let's give the audience a chance to join
feel
along.
this. Yeah, because if you look at children when they're young and they're stressed, they hum to themselves, right? To what you just said, when a child is in anxiety, and this is what psychologists have been working with adolescents for many years, they'll draw in the corner and they'll hum. Maybe you have a child at home. Maybe you notice that they kind of self-soothe. I've been living with adults who do that. They hum all day long. They're humming to themselves. They don't even know they're doing it.
And when people are scared, they're walking home. Maybe you have I have this movie trope in my head of a lady walking home on a street, maybe being scared and humming to themselves, like trying to calm themselves down. But I guess it actually happens as well. Or cats purring.
Yeah, oh God, I would love to be a cat. Every time I hear a cat, I'm petting a cat and I hear it purring. I'm like, wouldn't that just feel so good? That's the other thing about the voice. It's a feeling mechanism. And so many of us are using it as a thinking mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
It's a feeling mechanism. We use our voice to express our feelings. We use our voice to feel the vibration of those feelings and then to give it, to share it with the world. So, anyway, that's another topic. So, let's get to this exercise because it's
Let's do
beautiful.
the exercise, yeah.
I heard something read. This is an ancient Egyptian monolith, actually, that my father shared with me. So I just want to share it. They were talking about how, in ancient Egypt, they actually did a lot of chanting as well. The chanting I teach is Sanskrit, but in Egypt, they chant to Ram a lot, to the sun god Ram, which is the sound of the solar plexus. Ram is the bija mantra of the solar plexus. So all these cultures overlap, right? Um, but they would go into the pyramids, which many scientists have said are basically electrical generators, right? They're like energy generators, and that's how they managed to do what they did as a culture, as a civilization. They would go into the king's chamber and they would chant in groups and they would evoke energy with their voices so that they could connect to the sun god, right? This was part of their ritual practice. Anyway, so to honor that culture as well, because they're so deep in this metaphysical world. Nobody knows when singing began, when the first human sang, but we can guess that it happened before instruments, before we decided that other things outside of our body we should make sounds and rhythms with. We figured out how to do it inside of our own body first, right? Because the first thing we do is cry, so we know we have a voice. But we could imagine that singing actually started from a baby who was intolerably upset or so uncomfortable that it just wouldn't stop crying. And the mother puts the child to her heart out of, sadness, frustration, and just wanting to soothe her child. She has the child in her heart and she just begins to hum out of total instinct. She just, it's okay, baby. You can calm down, right? Whatever it might be, right? So I want everyone at home, if you're up to really feel what that is, even just hearing that story, something might have just gone like, yeah, I know that. That could be true, right? And what we can do is be our own mothers. This is something I give my students when they have anxiety or depression. Because anxiety and depression are the same thought. One moves backwards and one moves forwards. Right? Depression is the same thought goes towards my past, and I have to sit with the heaviness and burden of what that is. And anxiety is that same thought goes towards, oh my God, that's never going to happen for me in the future. Or, oh God, that happened to me. And now that's never going to be, whatever it is, right? Our anxiety is looking forward. Our depression is looking backwards. But it's the same trigger response, that lightning bolt that rushes through the system. So we can take our own hands and we can place them on our heart. Imagine you're holding yourself as a baby on your own heart, like you're the mother, it's you, and you're the baby, it's all you, right? And breathe your diaphragm down and see if you can get your belly to expand so that your spirit is moving into the body instead of being up here in the head. You're actually bringing spirit into the body. And if your diaphragm is locked, which a lot of ours are, don't worry about that so much. Don't get crazy about that. Really focus on the breath at the heart and bringing your sound to your heart. So once you can feel your hands on your heart, some nice deep breaths there. I want you to find a tone, your own tone. You don't have to follow what I'm going to do. I'm going to demonstrate, but I want you to find your own tone. And I want you to feel that sound moving through the heart. So no sound up here. I want it all to be coming, vibrating through the chest center. So we can breathe there. And when you're ready and you can feel the pressure of your hands on your chest creates a certain feeling. That feeling has a sound. And if you can find out what tone is that for me, the feeling of me comforting my own heart, what tone is that? And then take a breath and find it. So, that's mine. Yours can sound any which way it wants to, but just feel it. And then with each breath, just keep that sound going. So just move that sound, that same tone. Just keep on with each breath, continuing the tone. Can you feel it in the chest, like vibrating in your chest? Did you try it
I
on?
definitely felt that.
Did you feel it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And does it ground you a little? Do you feel, oh, okay, I'm like in my chest now. I'm not in my head, I'm in my chest.
Yeah. Before I can feel the difference mentally as well, because I noticed when doing this that I might have gotten too in my head with this whole conversation that we're having as well, and trying to lead the conversation and thinking next steps, what's next, where I'm going to take this and everything. And that makes me rush. But now I'm back here, I'm grounded, and I'm ready to continue, fresher than ever.
Beautiful. And you're here now. And that's the heart chakra, right? The heart is here now. It's not the head, which is taking you to the depression and the anxiety. It brings the vibration into the center, the presence, the heart.
Mm-hmm.
You probably had no idea the conversation would take us to that place.
Did not.
So now, anywhere we go from here, just let it go, right?
Definitely.
Where do you want to
But
take me next?
I remember you telling me about you growing up and your childhood, and there were other keywords and about your accident. Let's get your origin story.
So I had two major physical accidents that actually led me to the work I do today and to understanding this. So I was born um, into a beautiful, loving family. But like all families, there's things that happen to all of us. We can't escape it, right? That are gonna somehow mold our path, right? That are gonna make us who we are, and or what work. I call it the hero's journey of actually finding out why those things happen to actually reclaim your full self back. But so when I was younger, uh, there was some abuse at home, right, within the family, some sexual abuse. And I, at that moment, just randomly and not randomly at all, as I was being told not to tell, or I knew this was a secret that couldn't be told, which for most children, as we were talking about before, would lead me to be a very shy person or would hide, right? I was taught very young to not tell the world what isn't they shouldn't hear, right? Like, don't say the things that are going to upset or rock the boat or get someone in trouble, and hide all those ugly things, but always put the really good things out, right? I'm sure a lot of us have this teaching, but I got it this way, and for whatever reason, at 5 years old, this was happening at 4 or 5 years old, and at 5 years old, I was supposed to be in this pageant, in this music pageant, that it was like every kid had to tell a story about a US president, and one kid was supposed to sing God Bless America. And the day before the pageant, his parents came in and said, "We're Jehovah's Witnesses. He can't sing the word God." We didn't realize that he even said he would do this, but he can't do it. So me, in seeing that my teachers didn't know what they were going to do because this boy was supposed to sing that, I raised my hand and said I could do it. And nobody at that point knew that I could sing. It was something that came from my birth. I guess I like to sing, but I don't even know that anybody in my family knew that I was a singer, right? And something in my soul had to sing, right? I get that now. I didn't get that then, of course. What I got then was that my teachers looked like they needed help, which is me. I'm Miss Helpful. And I raised my hand and was like, I'll do it. And then I did it. And when I did it, they said, wow, you can do it. And so the next day, they put me on the stage. I sang the song, and my parents tell the story that everyone was passing them tissues and they were crying. And my music teacher at that point said, let me take her. Like, she's got a voice. This is an important part of the story because this is what we do in the world. We find a talent and we decide when we're young that that's what we're going to be, right? That's what it is. And a lot of us as children get sized up this way. We get sized up you're really good at math, we're going to push them towards that career. You're really good at science, that's your career, right? And yes, there are natural gifts. And yes, my voice is obviously a hugely important part of my life, but it also can create a lot of pressure when then as a young child you're in all sorts of classes and you're all sorts of trainings and you're auditioning and you're doing things and like you're actually like having to make this who you are. Like this voice is my identity, right? So in the process of that happening, there's also a real self-soothing mechanism going on. There's a soul that's able to get these feelings out without actually sharing it, right? But there is a secret inside of my body. And there's a really great expression that I got from AA, right? That a student of mine shared with me, that they say you're only as free as the secrets you keep. And I see this to be very true in my work, that there's really nothing we need to hide. And whatever it is that we're hiding is holding us back. And there's nothing to be shameful of or upset about with yourself or regretful of or guilty of. And those feelings lock us in and they shut us down. And so the ability to share and actually express becomes very important. So for a long time, there was a secret, very long time. And that's why I'm telling the story, because there was a talent, right? And there was an ability for people to like receive me in this way. But there was also something that nobody knew. And I had to protect that. And I didn't even realize I was protecting it. This is subconscious stuff. We're very, very young. We just put the thing that we don't want to look at away and we build a whole personality structure around it. And we don't even realize we're holding it, right? A lot of people can put that so far away. So a very long story short, which is already a long story, I'm going to go to, I fast forward and I'm really in the music business, right? Like I'm really trying for it. I've gone to school for it. I'm performing, but there's always this, like, you get to these doors and there's insecurity there, which you can't even name, right? But you're in that competition. You're going to auditions. You have to be better than the other. You have to get the role. And even when you're younger and you're in those auditions, like you're in competition with people that you want to be friends with, like it's an awkward thing to put people in competition this way. But with that, I got involved with a record label when I was 19 years old. And it was a very, very hard experience for me. And there wasn't a lot of creativity involved. It was just like, you're chasing the dream of pop stardom. And I got signed with these two other girls to be in this group. And it was a very awkward, uncomfortable situation, we'll say. And at that time, I was actually dating someone who was on a Christian record label, who was like working with his own music. And he was in this scenario where he was like writing and he was singing about God and he was like on his own life and he was like on his real creative path. And I was in the R&B hip hop kind of world where they were writing for us and we just had to like, do the harmonies and look good and all that kind of stuff. And we just had to like, it was just what sells, they just wanted to sell albums. It wasn't really about the music. It was about what they wanted to make their money off of us. Right. And I could smell all of that. But at the same time, that dream they plant in your head, right? That dream of like, you're going to be a star. You're going to work with all these people. Like this is what we're all going for, that superstardom, right? But there was something in there that I wasn't acknowledging. And ultimately what happened was it became a very uncomfortable situation. There was sexual harassment, there was drugs, there was all sorts of things, like the story you could imagine. And I decided I am not going to be a singer anymore. If this is what it means to be a singer, I don't want it. I don't want to be identified with my voice. I don't want to have anything to do with this. This is, my soul needs something else. So I left singing completely for 7 years, a whole life cycle. And I decided to discover something else, like who else is Marin? And in that process, I traveled. I actually moved to the furthest place you could. I moved to Australia. I moved far away, right? To find out, to go on this like spiritual quest to find out, who am I without this voice, right? And what else do I have? And I found a lot of amazing other things, like healing hands and a real desire to connect to the earth. And I found meditation and I found spirituality and I found chanting. I found an ashram in New South Wales in Australia that they do these Vedic fire rituals. And I learned the power of using the voice in this traditional Sanskrit way. And I felt it. I felt the change. So then from there, I end up having an accident. And I fall off of a waterfall in Fiji, of all places, and I break my arm straight through. And in the moment of my break, in the middle of my shock, to soothe myself, I sing. I begin to sing. And I sing Amazing Grace. of course, right? I am a Jewish girl from Rockland County, New York, mind you. Like all this Christian stuff, I don't really understand what's going on, although I kind of do now. But back then, this was just so moving through me, right? And I did that so that I wouldn't cry, right? I soothed myself. And mind you, 7 years, I said, I'm not a singer. I had many opportunities to sing, and I didn't take them. Many people asked me, they knew that I could. And I was like, I don't sing, I don't sing, I don't sing. I just cut that whole piece of me away. And then I have an accident and they mess up my surgery. So I have to get flown back from Fiji to Australia. They mess up the surgery in Australia, and then I have to go back to the United States, and my whole life just collapses on itself. My whole life goes from really good to literally basement, subpar. I'm back at home living with my parents. Not that there's anything wrong with that because I love them, but my whole life just turned on its head. And now I have all these surgeries I have to have. Everything's at a standstill. And in this moment, I meet my first shaman. So we can talk about how stories play out, but I found a mestizo shaman through a turn of fate, not by looking, but just by it being my path. That ultimately, during my first ceremony with him, I get this vision from God that my voice is a tool for healing. God comes to me and tells me that every time I've been asked to sing and I've said no for the past 7 years, I've been spitting in his face. And in the ceremony, I don't know if you've ever been in a shamanic ceremony, but in this ceremony, I am riddled with shame, which is what, of course, was sabotaging me to begin with. And so I'm riddled with this shame, and I'm saying to God, how can I be forgiven? Like, I don't want to shame you. Like, no, that's not what my soul wants to do at all. And God says to me, promise me if anybody asks you to sing moving forward, you'll say yes. And you're forgiven. So I, of course, to save my own soul, said yes to God. And at that very moment, the shaman, who doesn't know that I sing, says, Mari, cantar. And I don't know what he's saying because I don't speak Spanish and I'm in an altered state. And he says, Mari, cantar. And the person who brought me to the circle says, Maryn, he's asking you to sing. And I said, now? And yes, he goes, see, with this big smile on his face. Oh God, I love this man forever and ever. And so in that moment, I go to sing, but my heart is racing. My tongue is numb. My throat is dry. My head is spinning. I cannot think of a song. There's not a single song that can possibly come to mind. And I know thousands and thousands of songs. This woman's been singing her whole life, right? I know a lot of songs. And so I couldn't think of one. And at that moment, I get a vision with the medicine, and she tells me, why are you so afraid? You know how to sing. Why are you scared? And of course, my response is, well, what does one sing in a ceremonial place? And she stops the whole show and says, that's not why you're not singing. And she takes me down a rabbit hole to all of the things, all the ways I'd compromised myself, all the failures, all the losses, all the disappointments, all the things. And at the end of all that, tears later, crying later, the shaman's waiting. And I sit there, and finally, at the very end of all of it, I get a song that I heard at 19 when that first thing happened with that label. And it was about burning everything to the ground so that new life can grow. Can't even believe that I remembered the song after all those years. So I sing the song, and it becomes the whole beginning of this next level of understanding why we have our voice, which is our voice is a tool for healing. First, we heal ourselves, and then we heal whoever hears it, right? But we cannot heal whoever hears it unless we are on the path of our own healing with it, right? So the vibrational quality of our voice moves out of our body, and then the human, who's made up of the exact same material, right? We're made up of bone and blood and breath and veins and tissues and water and all of that. The sound vibrates out of us and directly in to them. That's how music works. We can play a guitar, we can play a flute, we can play a piano, and masters can move us to tears and move us to great healing. But we're translating our feelings into wood and steel and nylon and all those things. And if we're great at it, we're great at it. But the human voice is so much simpler to access. It is us. And everything we just put out gets received. Everything we put out gets received, right? And even what we're not is getting received, which is amazing. But really, with the voice, whoever hears us hears exactly where we're at a much deeper level than just the sound quality of our voice, like how someone wants to hear it. We're hearing it as a full transmitter receptor relationship, right? So at this moment, my whole purpose path is opened. And then through the working with the medicine, the world opens to show me how this is what my voice was always about, right? It comes from a moment where healing was necessary for me. And my voice work is for the healing of all others who can find the same faculty. So we look at our life stories and we think these horrible things happen to us. And the worst things that have ever happened to me have really been the best things that have ever happened to me. I would not be in the level of consciousness I'm in now if I didn't have to endure all of that. So the gifts just like keep on coming with this world. They just keep saying like, yep, go ahead, hit the ground, but get all the tools now you need to really help other people find their own voice. Heroes' journeys are difficult, right? But ultimately, right now in our time of history, our human voice has never been more important. It's been important the whole time. It's been what's creating everything right now. But for a human being to find out who they truly are, to know their gifts, their abilities, their power, and to find their confidence. This is the word of my, right now, the word that I am on, confidence, true confidence, which is primordial in nature. It comes with the birth. We are born with a body, a mind, a spirit that can do anything. We can create anything in this world. And we don't know that about ourselves anymore because of that ego, because our world has been set up for competition and comparison, right? And we really need to come back into who we are and find this voice, and it can heal our bodies. It heals our homes. The work that you do in this world, that's incredible. How we communicate with our children, how we communicate with our lovers, our loved ones, how we communicate with the people who come in and out, who work for us, who come into the house, how every single piece of our life, our home, how we use our voice in that process. I mean, we can go into how you raise a child, right? Using your voice to raise a child. Most parents go straight to screaming it and punishing. That's not the way. The way is to communicate and also to know depth of resonance of tone. Because when we're very young, we respond to tone, right? Anyway, that might be another time. It's a lot of talking, but yes.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing. It's like I haven't heard many parts of that story, and it's just like very shocking and inspiring and everything, and like thought provoking. So thank you a lot for sharing that story.
Thank you for listening.
I've always thought of myself as well of having the wounded healer archetype, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I had not gone through all the hardships that I had to go through, for example, my MS diagnosis, multiple sclerosis, and the depression that followed that, and just going through these very dark and difficult experiences, and then healing myself and finding my own healing path, I I wouldn't be the person, I wouldn't be as conscious as I am now. And I can't even imagine where I would be or what I would be doing. I don't even want to think about it. So, as you said, one of the biggest curses, one of the most difficult things that I've been through in my life is also at the same time one of my biggest blessings. And I'm very grateful that I had that experience because it made me the person I am today. So I really, really resonate with that as well.
100%. It's humbling and empowering simultaneously because our true power is in our humble nature, right? And so just to speak to that, one of the reasons why I really love working with you and why I'm honored to be here and why I respect what you and Miriam are doing so much is because I personally want to work with any teachers who haven't experienced what it is they're teaching, right? And that happens a lot in our world. We work with people who just like get it from a book. This is how our school teachers work and how everything works. They get it from a book and they pay it forward. And this is how history keeps on repeating itself, because the information that's coming in is just like the same information. But I don't really want to work with people, or wouldn't trust people, or not trust, but just the advice of people, and to work with people who haven't embodied what it is that they're offering to the world. Everything's fine in a conceptual place, but where is it in the actual reality, right? So the journey you've been through, like, please, all the tips, like, I'll take them from you. You've made it through, you've done it, it works. That's the same with me with the voice, like, years of this, it works. And if you have someone who's like the living, breathing example of it, then yes, it doesn't work for everyone. Maybe we're all different in some ways, but it is a path, and it does work, and it's definitely worth a shot.
For me personally as well, is before starting this call, we were talking about this a bit, and I said, wait, let's keep it for the podcast. And we started working a year ago. What was it? No, less than a year ago. Was it January, February? I think.
Don't remember, just because I don't have a time
yeah, time
thing.
flies.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was living in Portugal then. And through a series of unfortunate events and other life decisions and choices, we moved away from Portugal in April. Well, okay, the move wasn't the result of the unfortunate events, but unfortunate events ensued. And during the period, moving back to Estonia, switching my location again and everything, I kind of fell off the wagon of practicing a lot of the things that we're doing. Before that, I was chanting daily. I was doing all the chanting, all the exercises. I was following them religiously. But then life came. I got like hit by a train, and I've been trying to find my place again, finding time and making space for this exercise, this practice. But unfortunately, it picks up for a while, and then goes back down. It picks up for a while, for a few days, and then it goes back down. And I've been finding it really, really, really difficult making the space for it. And I figured that's what I was pushing off saying, is like, sorry, I've kind of like fallen off the wagon again. But now hearing you talking, going through this conversation, there's a realization in me that it's an excuse again for some reason, because I can make the time, and I just have to take the decision to take the time for myself, because the sum of these exercises is greater than all of its parts. The reward is multitudes of the time that I put into this practice, and it's very, 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 very much worth doing it. So I just really, really have to just jump back to it and start taking the time and doing these things.
Yes, before we got on this call, a student of mine reached out to tell me that she had the same thing had just happened to her, and she reached out to me to tell me because she knew why it happened too, because things were starting to change. Like, she was starting to feel a little different. She was starting to, like, not just feel different. Certain aspects of what that chakra was that we were working on started to really show up in her life, and she started to have to look at it and actually do something about it, right? Because you're activating the intelligence on a physical plane, which means it doesn't only happen inside, it happens outside, it happens in the world. It's a phenomenal journey, like, phenomenal journey. And just before she called me, this is kind of funny, I filmed an introduction to my online course that's coming out in January, and it's Why Chant. And in the actual video, I said, you're going to learn a lot during this course about the chakra system, about your mental development, about how this whole thing works. And you can get something out of it. But if you don't chant, you will not get the results that I'm guaranteeing you. Because so many people love the information. This is how the head works, right? We love to know, like, I can talk about this thing. I know this stuff, right? But when it comes down to practically applying it in this very simplified way, it's like, no, I can just like reverberate it to someone else now, or regurgitate it, I think was the word I meant. He's like, I can just like give it to someone else instead of experiencing it. Like, can I actually bring it into reality? And very often with all the students that I work with, when that moment comes where the thing that needs to move is about to move, they stop. Because the ego just doesn't want to change. Sorry, it just doesn't. It doesn't want change.
it's also very ego based. It's all these talismans that we collect. Let's say I'm spiritual. That's my talisman, like I wear it around my neck. I
Exactly.
went through a plant medicine journey. That's another talisman I wear around my neck. And I can just like signal to people that I've done these things. It's kind of like doing the working with medicine without doing the actual work later on that it requires.
We
If you
know
talk
that
about
world,
it,
don't
it's
we?
great for me. I virtue signaling. That's what it is, kind of
Yes.
almost. I would type back there, but something that I noticed as well is when I was doing the voice work, I was getting better at it. I could already feel my voice and I could bring it down. I was comfortable speaking to the microphone already and presenting to the camera. And I remember I got sick. I was sick for like a week then or something, and it was pretty hard. And after that, because I didn't do chanting for a week or two, then obviously because I was sick and I didn't feel good and my throat was hurting and I was out of it. But some stress had been building up in my life around the period anyway. And after I got better, I noticed at some point that my voice had come completely up and it was stuck here. I couldn't bring it down
Hmm.
because my nervous system was so taxed, so stressed. I tried to bring it down. I tried to speak from the correct place, tried to breathe in my diaphragm, make my voice resonate. It just didn't work, whatever I tried. Well, after some practice, I finally got it down, but it was very easy to come up. So I had to be very conscientious of putting the voice down. Usually it was the other way around. As soon as I kind of like, let's say, unlocked the skill, maybe I woke up in the morning, I felt my voice was high. Oh, I noticed it. Okay, better bring my voice down. And then the voice was down for the day. I was speaking from the correct place. It was even as like a practice, it was difficult bringing my voice back up. If I try to now at the moment even like bring it up and talk from a close space, I can't do it because it's something wired here. You know, I'm trying to speak, but it's not really. I still feel it here. But at that moment, it was all the way up, and even if I brought it down for a second, it went back up again. So it was a very fun experience. Let's Okay, not fun maybe, but it was an experience to see that how this all works and how much I can get stuck in my head. And even if I know the theory, then I have to do the whole practice again for a week or 2 weeks just to start bringing my voice down and keeping it in the correct place. So that was very, let's say, eye opening.
Your spirit and your body are working together to create your voice. And so after you've been sick like that and all the vital life force is out of the body, the there's no energy moving down. So there's like a laziness that begins to occur. And the majority of the world is in that state, that lazy state, right?
Mhm.
Um, Even if we activate our bodies, we haven't been taught, which is so funny because we don't remember that this is how we did it, right? But once we don't do it anymore, which happens around that solar plexus time, that like 5-year-old time, um, we just get lazy around the vocal faculty. And it really does come down to like when you're sick like that, you're not breathing. You don't have that kind of energy. You're not like pulling that
Mhm.
energy into the body and you don't have that kind of life force energy.
Very shallow breaths up here as well.
Yeah, which the breathing would help heal everything quicker, right? But it takes a
Mhm.
lot of drive. It just takes a lot of, I'm not feeling well. I'm going in. Let's go. We're going
And
to feel better.
it took time to get back into it.
Mhm. Yeah. So once you see that though, and once you feel the difference between a voice that's embodied and a voice that isn't, you want to have an embodied voice, right?
Definitely would not want to go back.
And it's also how it affects the world around you. Because when someone listens to someone with an embodied voice, they feel embodied themselves. And when someone listens to someone with a high pitched kind of an up here kind of voice, you just shut off, right? Your head just goes like, oh God, that's so annoying. I don't want to hear that, you know?
Even if the information is good, when a person is speaking like that or the conversation is important, like interesting, sorry, it's difficult to follow and difficult to listen to.
Totally. Exactly. And I know that many politicians and many public speakers have been taught how to get their voice inside their body. With vocal transformation, my work is a spiritual psychophysical process. And you can use all of this work to manipulate. There's no doubt about it. Like you can get your voice into the body. You can basically hypnotize and transmute your people. Like you, it's that kind of power. We have that kind of power within our vocal faculty. And these teachings, they can go right to the ego the same way they can go to the spirit, right, to the soul. And that's always our choice as a human. And so with vocal transformation, the work of going through the chakra system and understanding what's there and understanding how you became who you think you are and how to, it's all about reclaiming your truth. It's all about finding your authentic voice and then sharing that with the world so that we can actually begin to create a world that we actually want to be in. Right? We can manipulate our way. We can make people think that we are something that we're not. We can confuse and control. We can do all sorts of things with this faculty. Or we can simplify, which, doesn't that just feel so good? We can just go back to our nature, to our hearts, to our truth, our own truth, and we can have confidence to share who we really are with the world and begin to create a world where people feel good in their own skin. Right? People feel good about the future. People feel good about the planet. People feel good in general. We're missing joy, right? Joy. Like whatever happened to good old-fashioned joy? I mean, I have a lot of it, but that's because I work at that. Actually, I have to give myself that because there's no reason to be here without it. And this is a major teaching of the second chakra, which is where your voice comes from. Your voice, the way we use our voice and speak, all the muscles are down at the second chakra. And the second chakra comes with the truth. Can I enjoy my life through my senses? Can I be on this planet in joy? Can I love my body and can I love all the smells and the hears and the tastes and the touches and the sights? Can I like be in this world and can I enjoy my life, enjoy the people on my path, enjoy all the experiences of creativity that come my way, enjoy the sun rising and the sun setting every day? Like we're starting to lose this as a people. Back to home some, enjoy being home. Right? What if you create a home that feels so yummy, healthy, alive, creative, and spatially just so beautiful that you enjoy your home time? That you're not like, I need to go on vacation. You actually want to do a stay vacation. You want to like be home with your family, with your friends. You want to stop eating out at restaurants that put God knows what in your food. And you want to start creating good, wholesome meals at your own dinner table. Yes, we need that life again. We need to come back to being in joy. And having our full voice has a lot to do with that. Being heard. I can't tell you how many times I work with students. I just had one yesterday where she's so frustrated at home with her children. And when I say to her, well, what is it that you really want? She says, I just want to be heard. Right? Like when I speak, they just don't listen. And they don't realize that my heart, I'm caring for them. Like I know I can see a way for them to feel better. I could see a way for them to make a different choice and to do some, and they just won't listen. Right. And that's one story, but maybe you can relate to that, but it's beyond just your children. Like humans really want to just be heard. And in order for us to feel heard, we have to hear ourselves. We have to know what's really going on in there. And then we have to demand that for our life. Like, I'm going to share that. And I'm going to live with whatever comes. Like, if people can't be with that, then they're not my people. And if people can be with that, beautiful. And I can be with them the way they are. Because that's another piece of our relationships. When we don't feel heard, we don't want to listen either. It's like, it's a catch, right? If we feel seen and heard and respected and all those things, then we can see and hear and respect others the same way.
That's tying back to what we were talking about before as well, is that you can use the voice as a tool and you can use it in malicious ways as well. But you can also use it to make yourself be heard. And this specific practice that came into my mind right now is that I remember you teaching me that I sometimes do utilize, but often forget, is really bringing my voice to here and really actively using my face and directing the voice at you when I'm talking to you, because this demands your attention. You realize that I'm talking to you and I'm sending the information your way instead of just like being cool and talking back here and being chill, which is
Exactly.
like you have to be the active person listening to me. And I really, really enjoyed that lesson. And I tried it out on a room of people. even on stage. And I remember I did one talk that it was like an A/B test, let's say, not a conscious one, but it happened. I remember giving one talk, and there was like, let's say, 30, 40 people maybe in the room. And I prepared all my voice exercises and everything. But what I wasn't ready for is that they gave me this like headpiece, and there were two huge monitors, the speakers there, and they gave me this live feedback. So I actually couldn't feel my voice because these speakers overpowered it, and I wasn't used to it. I wasn't expecting this because I didn't try the stage before and didn't have the opportunity to. And I don't know where my voice was then because the speakers were doing all the work anyway. But later on, this I remembered in another very intimate talk that I had to give. The setting was very intimate because I didn't know how many people are going to show up, and only actually 3 people showed up to the event that I was speaking at, which was like, okay. So I dragged out like a cozy chair in front of them, sat down. There were 4 people, actually 4 people sitting in front of me, and said, okay, let's just talk, And I remember getting into this flow, and suddenly I switched when we were talking, and I was going on for long, and people were enjoying it. But when I saw like one of the guys was already sitting back. They were active before, but after a while, he was sitting like back listening to it. Then I remembered, okay, I have to do something to make them more active again, and I leaned into it. I started utilizing this, and I was talking to them, to him, and I saw the guy just like becoming active again, and like the whole talk, everyone was leaning in and nodding along because giving them information, like spoon feeding it to them in a sense, because I was talking to them and really utilizing my face and was keeping everything active and animated.
Exactly. If you want anything in this world, you have to go out and get it. Right? I know we have a lot of manifestors that sit and just like bring it in. But even the act of sitting every day in a meditative state and opening up to bring it in is doing something. You're still activating something, right? But if you just like wish it in one hand and just whatever, nothing is coming towards you in a way unless you are setting up the stage for it to magnetize. Electromagnetic. This is the chakras all over again, right? We're back where we started. Each of these electromagnetic planes is moving out to attract towards it what it needs and to polarize away from it what it doesn't. You might have an idea in your head of what you think you need or don't need, but your body is saying something different. The energies in your nervous system are actually speaking something different. This is whatever you're sending out in the world is not just what you think or what you say, it's all of it. It's all 3 of the brains that we talked about. And as just like a magnet, we're magnetizing towards us what we're putting out. So when you take your own energy and you bring it up towards the world and you say, here, I'm coming to meet you, world, you have so much more attraction power, right? There's like, I'm bringing this to you, and vroom, what can come to it is incredible. If you sit back and you're just kind of like lazy with the voice, lazy with the life, why don't I have that thing? I should have that thing. They have that thing, but you don't want to do anything to get that thing, right? It's
And
not
when you
going to,
just did this, it made it harder for me to listen to you because you were like doing
because I
this
backed
example,
away.
but I wasn't as active anymore. Yeah.
You have to meet it. You have to meet the world. We have to go out and meet the world. One of the big things in the way we've been programmed to be powerless, right? Like humans are feeling very powerless in what's going on right now in the world. That belief is what's creating a problem because we're more powerful than we could possibly imagine. But that's something that's been entrenched in our mind. That's something we believe. There are people in power and we are powerless. We vote them into power, or we put them in power, or they're much better than us, so they end up in power, or whatever it is. And then we expect them to do it for us. Everything. We expect everyone to do everything for us. And so getting your voice empowered, getting your chakras aligned, getting your body moving, getting everything there and meeting the world with that confidence, you can do it. You don't need someone else to do it for you. You are the divine energy. You are God incarnate. You are the power. And all that old stuff that we go through with the program, with like getting all the old beliefs and the old feelings and the old stuff that like is just blocking that conversation. We just get that out so that you can stand again in that true ability of creation, right? Humans co-create reality. Every one of us, 8 billion strong. And we're only one species that co-creates this reality. You know, there's tons of species that are part of this reality. But humans, 8 billion of us, 8 billion lights, 8 billion powers of creation, 8 billion ingenious minds, 8 billion of tons of talents and abilities, 8 billion unique, beautiful souls. All of us equal. All of us have the same ability when we evoke who we really are and we wake this up to be healthy, to be confident, to be creative, and all the talents that we have, right? To shine them and to use them to benefit all. We all have that.
Beautiful. I see that we're also coming up on our time together.
Yeah.
We've gone a bit over already, but as we always do,
Yeah.
all of our conversations.
It's voice, we talk.
But I'm thinking, what's the best way to end this? Because we already ended in such a beautiful note here, finished on this thought of yours.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, is there, because we talk about breathing down the diaphragm and keeping your voice down and speaking from a place of resonance. Do you have this one maybe very simple practice or exercise that people can get on and start doing instantly that would already improve this ability to control the voice and have it resonate from your heart and chest?
Okay. So we'll sit on the ground with our sit bone, or on our seat with our sit bones down, so that we like you pull the flesh off the rear end so that you can like sit on. And then you want to get the diaphragm that is here between the rib cage, the muscle group here between the rib cage, and it comes down to the pelvis. And you want to try to breathe that all the way down. So what I'm going to say is breathe into your belly. Breathe your belly open, right? So take your breath in your body and imagine that your breath is going to your low pelvis, your waist, and your low back. So breathe down into that waist, right? And with every breath, just bring it in. And if you can't access that because it's tight, we can smack our lips together like a horse. We can take a breath in and go, which then relaxes these muscles. And then after they're relaxed, take a breath into the waist again. Like, see if we can just access the low body. We're bringing all of our awareness down to our waist, right? Then take your hands and put them on your waist. So when you're breathing, you should feel your obliques getting wider. This is all that second chakra stuff we talked about. So a lot of us are very stuck here, right? Or it's tight. We suck in a lot. We hold in a lot. We really want these muscles to be expressive, which means they actually express instead of contract, right? So we breathe into the waist and we feel almost like a donut, I say, or we feel like a tube around the waist that gets wide. And then we want to take those muscles and we want to press them into the hands. So the waist is going to, with the breath, go like this. Let's see if we can feel that. And hold your breath when you do it. So breathe in, press the waist wide, and hold the breath. And just feel all that pressure at the bottom of the body. There's so much pressure down there, right? Okay, let the air out. Relax for a second. That pressure is how the voice functions. That pressure creates your sound, right? And so we use our voice up in here and it's tight and it's small. And yeah, there's resonators and there's voice here, but we want our voice to come from our second chakra. So we want the voice to move from there, just like a wave, up through the chest and out the mouth. So if we can try that again, we can breathe into the waist. I want you to drop your jaw completely, as wide as you can. And then when you breathe into the waist, press the waist out and let's add a sound. So we breathe into the waist, press out. So the sound of the voice is coming from there, right? And with the exercise we did earlier in this session, through here. So let's try it again and take the hands on the chest. Breathe down, move the waist wide, and make sure the sound comes here with that jaw down. That's how your voice should feel. And now you can take that same mechanism and you can speak with it. So you can breathe down, use the waist wide, keep the awareness on the chest, and speak. Speak clearly with these muscles working and this resonator vibrating. That's where your voice should be coming from.
Awesome. And now, before we wrap up completely, where can people find you? Where can people get acquainted with your work or write to you, or do you want people to write to you?
Yes, I want everybody who wants to find their voice to come find vocal transformation. It is literally the simplest, although it requires discipline, there's no doubt about it, but it is the simplest and most practical approach to getting the full range and resonance of your voice. I've been teaching this for over a decade. I get feedback like crazy. It changes lives, but it's also taking very old wisdom and making it very modern and practical. So it's something that anybody who feels like it's time for them to heal this mechanism, to find their voice and do it, come find vocal transformation. So the website is vocal-transformation.com.
And I think by the time this podcast comes out, the website's going to be without the dash. So vocaltransformation.com.
Yes, very good. Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Thank you, Marin. Always a pleasure. And so glad to have you on and that we finally got to do this.
Yes, thank you so much. And let's do it again.
Definitely. Okay. Ciao.
Bye.